by our standards, so we should be able to keep to time. But I do want to then, okay, we do have 6 items, which are open to the public, and there will be additional items that are going to be discussed or governance reports that will be done in close to the public as it is standard. But on the call today, we've got the full house of the members of the ELS. I'll start as I see them on the program. Start with Madame Simane. Madame Simane is a part-time regulator member and also the chairperson of the Finance Committee. Madame Simane, want to just greet?
Okay, Chair. Morning, everyone. Morning to the members of the public. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madame Simane.
Next in line would be Advocate Sithole, who is the CEO at NESA and also a member of the ELS. Advocate Sithole.
Good morning, Chairperson and members and everyone on the platform to this meeting of the ELS. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Advocate Sithole. Next would be Ms. Nomfundo Maseti, who is a full-time regulator member primarily responsible for pipe gas and a member of the ELS. Madam Maseti.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning to the members of the public. Chairperson, as we agreed in the previous meeting of the Energy Regulator, the pictures of all of the members are shown. Chairperson, thank you very much. I want to activate my video.
Thank you, Madam Maseti. Welcome. Next will be Mr. Tembani Pukula, who is the chairperson at NESA and a member of the ELS. Mr. Pukula.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, everyone who's on the call. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pukula. Last but not least, Mr. Muzuvukile Wiseman Mkize, who is a full-time regulator member of the primarily responsible for petroleum pipeline regulation and a member of the ELS. Mr. Mkize.
Good morning, Chairperson, members, and all the attendees, as well as those that are following us on various live streaming platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, members. We also have the members of staff and of management at NESA. I will not introduce them, but they will be coming on stream as they present their the reports. If they can maybe just indicate who's talking, if they have not been so introduced. I'd like to then invite the members of the ELS as also the members of staff to complete the declaration of interest forms, which are published on Convene. If we can complete those and share that with Mr. Mabunda. But I'm not sure, members, if there's anyone who's got anything that they want to indicate, maybe verbally, if there's any interest. None. With that, then we can then move straight to the regulatory reports, starting with item number 5. Mr. Kiza Jr., can you kindly introduce and indicate who then maybe do a more substantive presentation on the matter? Oh, I see there's a hand before that. I see there's a hand from Madam Maseti.
Chairperson, my hand is to remind you that we have not adopted the agenda in the public domain.
Sorry.
So there's no decision.
Oh, sorry. Apologies for that. Somehow I just thought after. Sorry. If we can then go back to the to agenda item number 3, which is adoption of the agenda. And apologies for that. We've now declared interest on the agenda, but the agenda has not been formally adopted. Members, by show of hands, can we adopt the agenda as discussed in a closed meeting? Mr. Mkize. Thank you, Advocate Sithole. I see no.
Chairperson, the item, item number 5.
Item number 9. Sorry,
yes.
Sorry, item number 8. because it's a matter that will be discussed, I thought as we discuss it, it will be discussed, but those items, so when it's introduced, we will talk about how it would be handled, and any matter that is not, which is not ready for public consumption will then be discussed in a closed meeting. But it's not, we're not withdrawing that item number 8, hence why I did not talk to it. It's just that in the manner when it is introduced, it will be introduced appropriately. That be okay?
Chairperson, I'm not sure. For me, it's item number 10, not number 8 on my agenda.
I'm looking at a wrong agenda here because item number, okay, let me go to the agenda now because I'm looking at the items themselves. Oh, it is, sorry, and on the main document, on the main, it actually looks like it's item number, it's that ish. So yeah, I'm wrong. It's item number 10. So that's that. Yeah, we are correct. It's actually item number 10. But I was saying that with item number 10 is that we've discussed in a closed meeting some concerns with it, but the item, because it's on the agenda, it will be introduced and will be discussed broadly. However, some of the detail which is not ready for public consumption at this stage will then be discussed in a closed meeting. So that was the proposal. So because we're not removing it from the agenda, I thought we'll then introduce it appropriately when it's introduced. But Mr. Pokola, you wanted to propose differently?
No, Chair, apologies. I was just correcting that it's item number 10.
It's item number 10. No, thank you. I had actually opened the item number 5. That's why I was mixing it. All right. So, members, with that explanation, can we then adopt the agenda as it is? With that explanation, that when agenda item number 10 is introduced, it will be introduced appropriately. Thank you, Madam Simane. Thank you, Mr. Pula. Mr. Mkiza, you had already raised your hand, and Madam said to thank you. Mr. Mkiza, thank you, Advocate Sitole. So the agenda is so adopted with that guiding principle in terms of how item number 10 will then be dealt with. Okay, if we can then go, apologies for the to and froing. So the declaration of interest on the matters on the agenda has now been discussed as well, and the forms will be completed and sent to the Secretariat. If we can now go to item number 5. Mr. Mkiza Jr., Mr. Welile Mkiza. If there's a challenge, if we can assist Mr. Tamayahore and introduce.
Good morning, members. Good morning, colleagues. Mr. Matome, can you just introduce this submission, take members through? Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Tamai. Good morning, members. Good morning, Chairperson, and also the colleagues. The purpose of this submission is to request the ELS to recommend to the energy regulator to approve the generation service quality incentives framework and its RFD. The delegation matrix permits the ELS to recommend methodologies as per section 6.1.1 of the delegation matrix. Just to give a brief background, is that during the first and the second NYPD control periods, Eskom distribution and transmission were the two divisions that were exposed to the SQI, which is the service quality incentives. So there's been a missing gap with regards to development of the framework for generation SQI. So that's the main reason for the framework of today. The design of the SQI evolves around encouraging the utility to earn additional revenue by improving its performance and forcing it to pay a penalty if its performance deteriorates relative to the target range, or even the dead band of it. The performance targets which are set, they normally run parallel with each NYPD control period, and the targets are revised at the end of each control period in order to reflect the current state of the affairs of the utility. Therefore, the objectives of the generation SQI are firstly to improve the quality service provided by Eskom generation, and also to ensure that the generator owners to use reasonable means to improve the quality of service they provide and reward good and quality service, and also penalize where there is poor service which is being provided by the Eskom generation. And again, drawing from the already used SQI of transmission and distribution, on which the indices mainly looked at minimizing interruptions and maintaining a good quality, a good continuity of supply. Therefore, for Eskom generation, the indices which have been proposed that will be measured for performance are the UCLF, which is unplanned capability loss factor, and also the energy availability factor, the EAF, and the details of the indices are found in Annexure A. And for UCLF, it's represented by figure 1, which is on page 10 of 36. And the EAF will be presented by figure 2, which is on page 12 of 38, sorry. And based on that, the recommendations are on page 5 of 38, which is where the ELS is requested to recommend to the energy regulator to approve the framework of the generation service quality incentives, as well as the reason for the decision of the framework. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Copper. Members, you've got the submission before us. Any questions for clarity, enhancements? By show of hands. Madam Assetti.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the team for this initiative. Chairperson, I think there are things that we just need to put up front in terms of our powers in designing the quality service standards for the generation. If we could kindly enhance the submission to indicate under what provision are we coming up with this framework, I think that will be very important. And also the second point is whether there are parties that have already been consulted on this, Eskom itself, and also maybe to understand whether the GCAC as well, if this is one of those matters that it could also look at, since it also has some technical aspects to it, and so that we can benefit from the views of other stakeholders in coming up with really good to hear what is Eskom's view with regards to this framework, and whether this is the standard that is feasible to be met by Eskom and things like that. So I thought, let me just raise that so that we. Sorry, I don't know what happened. Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry, Chairperson. So those are the two key things from my side, Chairperson, that I would like to get clarity on. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Assetti. Mr. Mkiza.
Thanks, Chairperson. Excuse me, and thanks to the presenter. When it comes to what is on page 4 of 8, where it says the measures used in the scheme have been given weightings of 80% contribution towards UCLF and the remaining 20% will come towards EAF, and as well as the capping at 1% of the revenues. I'm just unsure of if they can just explain the logic behind that, and whether and if there's any kind of benchmark related to the choice of these figures. And then the other issue that I'm just concerned about, if you look at the electricity pricing policy, there's an element of having to consider the issue of load shedding. When are we going to have a look at that? How does it relate to this? Yeah, I think I'll stop there to say the they were just silent around that issue. Just wanted to understand, because my understanding was that we were going to do something about it when we're discussing it as part of the consent of the MYPD methodology. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Any further inputs? None. Mr. Copper, Mr. Kore, team, if you can assist with responses.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Okay, firstly, the framework before it went out, it did go to public participation, and ESCOM was consulted, and then they did give their inputs, and the input has been amended as well when making the final determination of it. And the provision of the framework, it's unfortunately it's in the background in Annexure A, which talks about Section 4 of the ERA, on which the regulator must establish and manage monitoring and information system, including national information of framework. And just to answer Mr. Mkhize, with regards to the penalties, it works the same way as the transmission and distribution framework, on which if there is any, when there is an allowable revenue, 1% of that allowable revenue is what will be used as a measure. So then after taking that 1%, whatever the value will be, based on that value, then the aim is to apportion it to UCLF as well as EAF. And now the main focus is actually UCLF, on which you want to minimize the interruptions that will be caused by ESCOM generation. And based on that, that's why we allocated UCLF to have the 80% of whatever that 1% of the allowed revenue will be. And then the 20% will then be offered to EAF. And considering load shedding, my personal view on it is that EAF and UCLF is what actually brings the whole idea of load shedding, on which there will be minimum available plants. In case of having the minimum available plants, that's where now there will be the penalty for poor service. That's one of the objectives of this framework. Thanks.
Okay, but before I ask the members whether they are satisfied with the answers, but I mean, I see Mr. Mkhize would like to add, but I think for me the issue is, for instance, when we're talking about that 1% and the 80-20, were there any benchmarks done? Just I guess where Mr. Mkhize was saying where he was coming from was simply saying, do we have sufficient reasons on why we landed on 1% and that 80-20? So that was what he was looking for. Mr. Mkhize Jr.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson, and just want to greet yourself and the members and the staff on the call, and also any public that is connected to this call. My apologies earlier. I think I was speaking to a muted mic. Chairperson, I just wanted to add with regards to Mr. Mkhize's question regarding the weights of 80% for UCLF and 20% for EAF. That initially, when the SQI or the quality incentives for generation were being formulated, indeed EAF was the primary key performance area that was used. However, after consultations, as Mr. Khopa was saying, the ESCOM, which was the only stakeholder that commented, pointed out the fact that if EAF is used, EAF is a result or a outcome of other factors like your OCF as well as your PCLF, of which PCLF I think is one of the major contributors to EAF. And of course, PCLF is your maintenance of your power plants, and we definitely would not want ESCOM to reduce PCLF, which is the maintenance, in favor of ensuring that the units are up and running most of the time in order to increase EAF. And so for those reasons, Chairperson, it was decided that UCLF should be the one that is given the most weight, because in reducing UCLF, you automatically also reduce the, you automatically increase the EAF. So that is why then UCLF was given a higher weighting, and the EAF given, still considered, but given a lower weighting, to ensure that there is no any nefarious reduction to PCLF in an attempt to increase the EAF. I hope that that covers it, Chairperson. Thanks.
Thank you. But I must admit, there are other questions by Madam Maseti on the chat, if we can consider. But colleagues, when you respond, can we not use SLAs, please? And I'm using that on purpose. So we the meeting is public, so we know what PCLF is and what UCLF is, but maybe the members of the public may not know that. So if whatever that when we are presenting, please can we use the full words, please? The unplanned capacity loss factors, such that everybody can be in the know in terms of what we are talking about. But please note the further questions that were asked by Madam Maseti. If you can respond to that before I go back to the members to ask if they've been answered.
Chairperson, maybe just to answer Ms. Maseti, this SQI is specifically for ESCOM. However, as she rightly states there on the chat, that when the market is open, it will then be extended to other market participants as well in the generation space. And then there's a question, how would we ensure other generators are made to account? I think it's similar to the first, that of course, in terms of performance, the regulator is limited to the regulated entities. So when it comes to performance of non-regulated entities, the regulator will obviously not have much sight on those, as it is with the registrants currently. But for those generators that are licensed, the regulator will still ensure that they do perform as per the SQI that is being presented today. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe just to add, though, addressing a question with Amaseti on the market. Once the market is open, the market will regulate generation. So all of the issues of non-availability would be rewarded by non-payment or non-collection of revenue. So the incentive would be on the market will actually set a proper incentive for the generators, perhaps. That's why when the wholesale market is introduced, there's going to be minimum oversight. Sorry, there will be oversight by the regulator, but minimum regulation, because the market will generally regulate that generation sector. But nonetheless, members, are your questions properly responded to? Ramaseti?
Yes, Chairperson, I'm covered.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Are sufficiently covered?
Not entirely on the load shedding part, and I think the others, one can just have an offline discussion just to understand better. But it's nothing that should hold back the approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. But Mr. Mkhize Jr. and team, if we can still, if possible, for instance, things that are hidden in annexes, if we can extract them properly into the main documents, for instance, the reasons that the powers as asked for by Madam Maseti, and even those reasons as we explain in them, if we can enhance that before this matter goes to the ER for approval. With that, members, can I then take you to the decision that is sought, which is on paragraph 14. The electricity subcommittee is requested to recommend to the energy regulator to approve the framework for generation service quality incentives, the SQIs, as they've been presented, which are attached here to as Annexure A, and the reasons for decision document on the generation SQIs, which are also attached here as Annexure B. By show of hands, members, can we recommend that? Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Mr. Pokula. Thank you, Madam Simane. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Advocate Sitole. Thank you, Advocate Sitole. Mr. Mkhize, Junior, you've got your decision. Can we then move on to agenda item number 6? Again, if you can introduce it, Mr. Mkhize, Junior.
Yes, no, thank you, Chairperson. This one is concerning the application for the reduction of tariffs for solar capital DR. Maybe just as a brief background, Chairperson, it was decided that the projects from bid windows 1 to 3.5 should have their tariffs revised because of the the high tariffs that were given to those particular IPPs at that time due to the high risk that was perceived at the time. And so this particular IPP has applied to have its tariff restructured, as well as the refinancing thereof of the entity. But Mr. Hore and Ms. Sindiswa will give details on this submission, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. The purpose of this submission is to request the Electricity Subcommittee to approve the tariff reduction for Solar Capital DR3 RF Pty Ltd, and also to approve the amendment of the Power Purchase Agreement to reflect the amended tariff. Solar Capital DR3 was licensed on 30 October 2012 under bid window 2. The high tariff for bid windows 1 to 3.5 created a perception that the tariff were overpriced and the country was locked into a 20-year power purchase agreement. Since the initiation of the refinancing protocol in 2020, 25 IPPs applied for tariff reductions and were granted approval by the energy regulator. The consideration of the amendments of existing PPA is delegated to the Electricity Subcommittee as per clause 1.10 of the delegation matrix. I would like to mention that the financial information in this application is confidential. I therefore request the Electricity Subcommittee to approve the recommendation as set out in page 5 of 15 of the submission. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Mkhwanazi. Members, the submission is here before us for questions, comments, enhancements. Any of those by show of hands? Ms. Mkhwanazi, it seems like it's a clear enough presentation and there are no comments. In that case, can I then take members to paragraph 14 on page 5 of 15? And as indicated, the numbers are confidential, but the ELS is requested to approve the tariff reduction, starting from the tariff reduction, which was initial tariff. Well, if those tariffs are looked at the base, the 2021 base, they represent the numbers there, but the tariffs as of the 1st of April 2024 terms, those are the numbers that are indicated there. There is a reduction, and to approve the inclusion of the reduced tariff in the power purchase agreement. Members, by show of hands, can we approve that? It's rather difficult when the numbers are redacted. Thank you, Mr. Pokula. Thank you, Madam Simane, Mr. Mkhize, Advocate Sitole, and Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkhize, you've got your decision on item 6. Let's move on to item 7. Mr. Mkhize again.
Thank you, Chairperson. This one, Chairperson, is quite a straightforward application where Renosterberg local municipality is asking the regulator to have an area by the name of Plakkerskamp included in Schedule 1 of its license. That is what the application is about in a gist, Chairperson, but I'll give it to Tsepo Ramakoka to give details. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, members and all members on the call. Chairperson, this is an application by Renosterberg municipality to include an integrated national electrification program, INEP electrified area, which is Plakkerskamp in its Schedule 1 of its license, distribution license. The purpose of this submission is to request the electricity subcommittee to approve this amendment and of Schedule 1 of Renosterberg to include Plakkerskamp and the tariff to be charged in that area to be the NERSA approved, and also to approve the draft decision and the resident decision attached here too. Chairperson, the application is processed in accordance to the NERSA rules and the NERSA internal processes. The funds have already been approved by the DMRE, the Department of Minerals, Resources and Energy, and this application is already permitted by license condition 5.1.3. which allows that when a licensee electrifies through INEP program, it applies to NERSA for it to be included into the schedule. Chairperson, therefore, it is requested that the ELS approves the amended schedule of Renosterberg to include Plakkerskamp and the tariff to be charged there as to be NERSA approved tariffs and the draft decision and the reasons for decision documents attached here too. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Ramkoka. Members, any questions, comments, enhancements? A show of hands. Advocate Titol.
Thanks, Chairperson. Thanks to the presenter. Chair, I just wanted the presenter to just confirm if Plakkerskamp is within the area of jurisdiction of Rosenberg in line with the demarcation board process of demarcating all the municipal areas. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Advocate. Seems to be no further questions, Mr. Ramkoka.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, I do confirm that this area is within the municipality, and the Renosterberg municipality was previously mapped out by the NERSA mapping project through the project, and the Plakkerskamp is attached here to in the submission with a map. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Ramkoka. Advocate, you are sufficiently responded to?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Chairperson.
Okay. Thank you. With that, can I then take members to the decision that is sought on paragraph 14? It has been read into the record. So if I can just see by show of hands, members, if we can approve it. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Mr. Pukula. Thank you, Madam Aseti. Thank you, Advocate Sithole. I do support. Who am I missing? Anyway, yeah, okay, we've got the full house, I guess. Thank you, Mr. Ramkoka. You've got your decision. That is item number 7. If we can now move to item number 8, Mr. Mkhize Jr.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. This one is on the wheeling framework, which NERSA received a framework from NECOM to develop the rules. This one, Chairperson, is a consultation paper that we are wanting to publish for the public to comment on the rules. Mr. Moroweng will provide the details on this particular submission, Chairperson. Perhaps Mr. Shozi, if Mr. Moroweng is not here.
I'm here, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Good morning, Chairperson, members of the ELS committee, and colleagues. This submission, it's about a request to the ELS committee to approve a consultation paper on the regulatory rules on network charges for third-party wheeling of energy. So the delegation matrix is that the ELS has the power to approve based on clause 6.2 of the matrix that was developed on the 26th of October 2023. And also Section 35 of the Act empowers NERSA to make guidelines, rules, codes, and after consultation with stakeholders. So on this document, just to request that stakeholders comment and make inputs on the draft rules that we have attached in one of the annexures. The background is that the current energy capacity shortage requires rapid deployment on investment in electricity, which also enable which the rules will enable that private sector investment is increased, and also to provide clarity on the charges and prices that should be charged to whoever will be wheeling energy. The rules also will outline the contracts that should be entered into, as well as the terms and conditions. And just to brief the other information upfront is that NERSA developed these rules in 2012, and they were specifically developed for Eskom, of which we have been approving the wheeling tariff for Eskom for quite some time. But now there was a request also from other network service providers like the municipalities that they will also want to participate by wheeling energy to related customers or other customers who wants to buy their energy. So we have to specifically now update these rules and to suit all players in the industry. So these rules also are developed in parallel to the current restructuring of Eskom and the establishment of the National Transmission Company. So with the prepared consultation paper, NERSA seek inputs and comments from stakeholders that will assist in the current development of the rules. So as we go to the recommendation, it's that we will request the electricity regulator committee to approve the consultation paper and also note the indicative timelines that are included for consulting. And also we have made some attachments or annexures on the rules that were developed in 2012. Also the framework that was developed by NICOM. But out of that also we made members to know that we made a comparison between the rules that we developed in 2012 and what came out of the NICOM documents that was sent to NERSA. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Moreng. Members, you've got the presentation before us. Any questions, comments, enhancements? It's here for us to approve a consultation paper, so we'll still get further input on it, further comments. But it's more the consultation paper. Any comments by show of hands, members? If none, then can I then take members to the, yes, there is a comment, Mr. Mkhize, question?
Thanks, Chairperson. I stand to be corrected. My recollection is that primarily we approve the publication of the consultation paper.
You're right, in the wording.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, correct. We approve the publication of the consultation paper. You're correct. All right. With that correction, members, recommendation A is not to approve the consultation paper, but rather the publication of the consultation paper. That's corrected. By show of hands, members, can we approve those recommendations with that amendment? Thank you, Madam Simane. Thank you, Madam Maseti, Mr. Mkhize, Advocate Sitole, and Mr. Pukula. Mr. Moreng, you've got your decision. Can you now take us to item number 9, Mr. Mkhize Jr.?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. This item is a temporary application for an exemption by Mulilo Priska Solar. Chairperson, I'll just point out the fact that this one has been coming back for quite some time. to a point that the GCAC did not really approve this exemption. However, the NERSA or the regulator looked at the fact that the system operator did sort of support the application based on conditions that certain action items be done according to an action plan which they submitted. They are asking for an extension up to September 2025, which is next year. But with regards to the actions that have been done, as well as actions that are still outstanding and other details, I'll give it to the presenter. Mr. Shozi, I'm not sure who's going to present this one.
Mr. Nicholas Molle.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no, thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Good morning, Chairperson, members of the ELS, and colleagues. The purpose of this submission is to request the Electricity Subcommittee to approve temporary exemption for Mulilo Priska Solar Farm from complying with the RPP Grid Code version 3.1 of January 2022. And the delegation matrix, the Electricity Subcommittee is duly delegated as per clause 1.5 of Electricity Delegation Matrix of 6 October 2023 to approve application from ESI requiring exemption from South African Grid Code. As outlined by Mr. Mkhize, on the 7th of the GCAC reviewed the application for temporary exemption and as depicted on table 2, but did not recommend the RPP for approval by the energy regulator, as the applicant had previously been granted a 12-month temporary exemption on Appendix 9. However, during this period, the applicant did not take necessary steps to address non-compliance as presented to the GCAC. Then on the reasons table, which is table 3, the RPP outlined that obtaining documents from, reasons for non-compliance, excuse me for that. The RPP outlined that obtaining documents from the inventor OEM was a bit of a challenge because the original OEM sold the business to new owners who relocated the business to India, and they ceased the after-sales support in South Africa, which was a challenge because the company had limited specialized equipment, test, and skills to support them locally. And the other issue was that in communication, they had issues with communication because the business had been relocated to India, it needed to be done through a third party. So RETEC did not approve the RPP's report on inverter reactive power capabilities. So in trying to address all the remedial actions to that, the RPP opted to purchase new harmonic filters to address both harmonic accidents and reactive power shortfall. And they also sent through a breakdown of activities schedule on how they plan to address and achieve this non-compliance within the requested time frame. Under deliberations, as their request was not approved on the 7th of March through a virtual meeting with GCAC, the GCAC actually advised that the Grid Code team in NERSA to engage with the RPP to understand issues and challenges that the RPP is facing. And the RPP, to demonstrate their commitment in addressing the non-compliances, submitted quality report on the 16th of May with fully updated progress and in addressing the challenges they faced. And again, in the letter dated 25 June 2024, as attached as Annexure A, ESCOM expressed support to the RPP to be granted one more temporary exemption to address the issues. The NERSA Grid Code team also recommend that the RPP be given a chance to prove compliance with the RPP grid, granting them an approval for temporary exemption as outlined in Table 4. And in recommendations, it is that Electricity Subcommittee approves the temporary exemption of Mulilo Preska Solar Farm until the 30th September 2025, as outlined in Table 4.
Thank you, Mr. Maluleke. Members, any questions, comments, enhancements? Madam Assetti.
Chairperson, just two questions from me. I just want to understand from the exemptions that we have considered in the past, is this the grounds for, are the grounds for this request for exemption the first one, or have we not exempted other companies on the basis of non-compliance with the limits in terms of the harmonics with the compared to the other companies that have come before us before, who were also not able to meet the limits? Is this the first one that is doing this? Just want to understand, given the concerns and the way that the GCAC looked at the exemption application and indicating that strict monitoring be done on this specific one. I just wanted to check if, as NERSA now an independent body, if we had similar exemptions that we have granted to others before, so that we can be in a position to apply an even treatment to all of the licensees who couldn't comply with the required limits. So that is the first one, so that we make sure that before we take a decision, we're not going to apply different standards compared to what and the manner in which we considered others in the past. And that is not to say that in the specific circumstances of this one, if there is something that warrants us to take some extra measures, we should not do that. But it's just important that at least we are consistent in the way that we treat these licenses. So that is the first one, and then the second one, Chairperson, I just want to understand whether it is feasible to do some to receive monthly reports from this generator, in terms of the measures that they're putting in place to make sure that they will be in a position to comply in 12 months' time. So should we not look rather on a quarterly basis so that we can thoroughly analyze, some of the progress that has been made and whether this progress will be able to ensure that they will be in compliance at the end of September 2025? Those are the two questions from me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Assetti. Any further questions, members? None? Mr. Maluleke?
Thank you. On the first one, yes, we do have had similar exemptions before, which had to do with harmonic filters, which were brought through to ELS for approval. It's just that this one is exception of it's been here multiple times, as it's a bit different the way I've been presenting it. And then the monthly report, even the RPP, they've committed to submit a monthly report which will the monthly progress to show how committed they are to reach the compliance position by next year September. So yes, we'll receive monthly reports as per their promise to track the progress of the activities. Thank you. I see Madam Agoban wants to come in to assist me. Thanks.
Madam Agoban, can add?
Thanks. Good morning, Chairperson and members. Just to add, and I think in terms of this one, and I'm hearing Ms. Masetti around the issues of fair treatment and not being inconsistent in the way that we're treating applicants. And I think the feeling of the GCAC is that we're seeing a trend with this particular one, and it's not to say that probably others don't do the same, but it was becoming a bit blatant in the way that they would keep coming for extensions with no demonstration of what the previous time that they've received has been used to do. And so it was just for us to look closer at the activities and also just highlight to them their obligation and the expectation around compliance, and probably just light a fire a little bit just to say you need to demonstrate seriousness around bringing your plan to compliance and not use these processes as just a way to kick your buckets down the road. And so that was just the principle of it, Ms. Masetti, to stress the issue of the importance of bringing these plans to compliance, because we're seeing a trend of just a lack of initiative when it comes to these matters. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you. But I think Madam Masetti was asking, so you've got in terms of the conditions, condition 6, condition 14.2c, which is a monthly report, and then 2d, which is a quarterly report. And the question was, monthly report, would that not exert a regulatory burden? So, but we hear Mr. Madhuga saying that they have committed to a monthly report, but which one is it? Is it a quarterly report or a monthly report?
If I can come in, I think the monthly report will then take the place of a quarterly report. It was just to bring a bit more frequency. So the quarterly report probably needs to fall away, and then the monthly report becomes applicable. Thanks.
All right, but I guess the question is it not a burden on them, or are you saying precisely because they have failed so many times before, you'd like to ensure that there is no comeback on this one?
Yes, Chairperson.
All right, thank you. Madam Masetti, are you sufficiently covered? Thank you, Madam. I can see your thumbs up. So with that, members, can I then take you to the recommendation that is sought, which starts on page 9 of 14 and spills over to page 10 of 14. And I believe it has been read into the record, but just to be on the safe side, read it into the record so we can clarify that issue. That's just the monthly versus quarterly report. That we say the team is here to, the recommendation is for the electricity subcommittee to approve the temporary exemption of Nilopriska Solar Farm as outlined in table 4 below. And it's really just that clauses in terms of appendix 9. Clauses A 9 to 9.2.3, 9.2.4, and 9.2.5, and the exemption that is requested is until the 30th of September 2025, and the conditions, and to request that the ELS also approve the conditions, the enhanced conditions for this temporary exemption, which are outlined below, which is that the RPP generator must demonstrate through testing and otherwise to the satisfaction of the systems operator and the NSP, the RPP's current capability in relation to the exempted code requirement, and provide assurance that this capability will be maintained for the duration of the exemption period. And B, should the RPP's generator non-compliance with the code requirement necessitate the systems operator or the NSP to curtail or to disconnect the RPP, not deemed energy payments shall be claimed for the output that was curtailed or disconnected. And then C, which is now going to replace, so now C replaces D. So we're going to combine C and D to say, request to approve that one of the conditions is that the RPP submit a monthly report by no later than the 10th business day of each month. And the report shall include an updated program and that report shall be submitted to NERSA Grid Code Team at nersa.org.za and to gmc@escom.co.za. Members, by show of hands, if we can approve those recommendations. Thank you, Madam Massetti. Thank you, Mr. Pukula. Thank you, Advocate Tola. Thank you, Madam Simani. Mr. Nkiza, are you comfortable? Thank you, Mr. Nkiza. Now that takes us to agenda item number 10, which is that matter that we thought we would discuss in general, but we will actually take the details into a closed meeting immediately once the meeting has been closed. In essence, and I'm going to try to introduce it briefly and then ask Mr. Shozi to then fill in the gaps here, that this is this one is here to request the amendments to Schedule 2. Those amendments are actually a domain of the DMRE or the Department of Energy and Electricity, whichever would be gazetted to actually or has been gazetted to handle this act, to facilitate net billing and approval of net billing rules and the draft rules. And that the request really is for 3 items: is to note the inputs, which is annexed as Annexure A, and then to approve these draft rules, but they remain draft because they would then have to be subject to the actual amendment to the schedule being done by the department, to include these net billing rules and to approve the draft decisions. Those are the 3 that are sought. But there are items and there are matters in this submission that are not ripe for a decision. However, we felt because it was something that was advertised that we owe it to the public to have a high level deliberation on this, and then the detailed comments by members would then be that will be discussed in a closed meeting, ventilated in a closed meeting, and those inputs will then be taken by the team to further enhance the submission on the areas that the members would have identified. So may I just ask Mr. Shozi to carefully introduce this matter, please, further, and add where I may have left out. Thanks.
Chair, I think I'm covered with your high-level introduction on this matter. Chair, as you have read the recommendation that we are putting forward for the committee to, as you have said, they need to be refined. What we have put in was based on our understanding in terms of what the Act provides. We might have missed some of the areas of the Act, and we are here to seek further guidance and incorporate those so the matter can be put to rest. As we have said, Chair, when we started with the net billing, the main players in the net billing itself are the rooftops, and most of them are less than 100 kVA kilowatts. So how those who are treated, they are not licensed, they are not registered, and they are customers to the municipalities. When we wanted to introduce the net billing was to ensure how those players, in terms of the prosumers who are less than a kilowatt, 100 kilowatt, who are not licensed or not registered, how they're going to be compensated in terms of the net billing. So the amendments that we are doing on the Schedule 2 is to give effect to the powers of the ER to if we are not licensed or registered, how do we then manage your tariffs and so on. But as we have said, the matter is still at the discussion stage. I will allow members to further give guidance at a closed meeting, and probably from that meeting we'll be able to get it right for the public to start exercising the net billing mechanism. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Shozi. Members, again, as discussed earlier, are there any high-level comments that you would like to raise on this matter, on this net billing? Clarity such that at least members of the public would have some kind of an idea of what are the issues that we're dealing with, and then all of the detail can then be discussed in a closed meeting. By show of hands, members, if you've got any high-level issues. Madam Massetti.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I think for me is the whole issue of the extent of our mandate, the jurisdiction first of all. Whether we will be utilizing our resources appropriately and enter into a territory where we actually should not even be spending time and resources to intervene in a space that we do not have the mandate, as we are a creature of statute. So how do we then even begin to do something that we don't have a mandate to do? So I think it's important as a broad issue to consider is the issue of jurisdiction as we start to intervene in a market. So we must be guided by that. That's very important that we clarify the extent of our mandate, our powers, and look at whether we should even be playing into the space. I'm raising this because we are talking about amendments to Schedule 2. And I'm not sure to what extent are we allowed to make amendments to a schedule per se, and whether that is not the domain of the minister to actually do so. And the other thing, Chairperson, I'm not sure also if in terms of now using the rules to sort of intervene into the space, is it not by is it not something that will be viewed as giving ourselves powers we don't have, giving ourselves those powers backdoor and therefore exposing ourselves, so the energy regulator, to legal challenges in terms of the mandate that we have. I would like to sort of get clarification on that. And also, Chairperson, I think the sequencing of the processes that are in place, knowing the fact that there is this electricity regulation bill. So once it becomes an act, it's probably going to give us certain powers. But even if it is something, there are some powers that are included in that piece of legislation that is not yet finalized or is not at the stage of implementation. Should we be doing something when those things are still pending and not finalized? So those are, for me, sort of the broad things that we need to think carefully about, and whether it is worth our while and worth spending our resources to intervene in matters of that nature where our mandate is very limited. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Madam Massetti. Mr. Pokula.
Thank you, Chair. The issue for me is what has been covered by Ms. Massetti, but the second part is I don't believe that we have the understanding of what is required. What can we do now, and what can we do when there's been amendments to Schedule 2 in effecting what is required if we're talking net billing. And that's the part, the discussion that I think we must have, because I don't think we're aligned on what are our powers and what can we do now with or without the amendments of Schedule 2. But the broader issue is that we cannot have a consultation on a paper that is based on something that has not been promulgated by anyone. We cannot have an amendment on what we hope and wish the department, whether it's of energy and electricity or mineral resources and energy, is going to approve as the amended Schedule 2. That is illegal to do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Pokula. Any other questions, comments, members, on this matter? I see. Okay, Mr. Mkiza.
Thanks, Chairperson. in view of what has been said by my colleagues, and considering that this comes a long way, I would just like to understand what is holding back from the department side in terms of amending Schedule 2 as put forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mkhize. All right, so in response, if we can start, Mr. Shozi, I will assist. I'm not sure whether you'd want me to assist first or you can go first, but I think it's best if you start with responses and then I will assist you. Over to you.
Chairperson, there is an emergency alarm to evacuate the building. I'm sorry, I have to evacuate the building now. I'm at NERSA.
Okay, so that applies to all of the people that are at NERSA. Can I get by show of hands indication of the members of staff or of the regulator that might be in the building?
That's a strange coincidence, Chairperson, because I'm also outside in the street. We have evacuated our building as well.
Oh, gee, that's okay. Members, I'm not too sure. I assume it's one of the things that in terms of our item 2, we've really never really tested what happens when that happens. So those members that are in the building, please evacuate properly as always been instructed. Don't run, walk briskly, follow the instructions of the safety officer. Now, can I be guided? Can we hold the meeting in abeyance a bit or should we continue? No, there are members of the public that have joined us. Mr. Ntanzi, please assist. Please guide. Or Mr.
Yeah, Chair, I think if we can test the availability of colleagues to support the subcommittee, if they are available, majority of them may assist and we will proceed, Chair. I only heard Mr. Shozi saying that he is in the building. No one raised his hand when you asked. Okay, in the interest of the public, let's proceed, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ntanzi. So assuming that Mr. Khalagane is here, Mr. Mkhize, yeah, Mr. Khalagane is here. If we can just proceed, remember, colleagues, the guidance that was offered by the members at the beginning of the meeting. If we can then proceed, Mr. Khalagane.
Okay,
I will assist you. I will assist you where you need assistance.
Okay, yes, thank you, Chairperson, and good morning, colleagues, and good morning to the members of the ELS and of the public. I think I will maybe just try and answer 2 questions. On Ms. Maseti's questions, I will not maybe answer those as they have to do with our jurisdiction, and the main reason we are here is because of the initial determination on the NERSA side that we don't have a mandate to develop the rules, hence this process of the department amending Schedule 2 to include those net billing provisions. But in terms of one of the issues raised by Mr. Bukula, in terms of the rules themselves being published, I just wanted to indicate that we actually had already consulted on the draft rules, but the consultation at the time was based on the disaster management regulations, which were then repealed. So we did receive stakeholder comments, and those comments were taken into consideration in finalizing the rules. However, we could not proceed with the publication. The process to get them approved then stopped then because of the whole mandate issue. But I just thought maybe I should just highlight on that one that this was actually a request for the approval or the noting of the actual rules, because the rules were already consulted on, but based on a provision that was applicable in March last year. And in terms of maybe the question by Mr. Mkhize on what is holding back the department in amending Schedule 2, we did make a follow-up with the department to find out how far they are with the process of amending Schedule 2, and they did indicate on their side that they haven't actually started on the process, and they are also waiting for these new developments with the 7th administration to
to be finalized, and then they will further give us feedback on that. So I think those are the main two that I would have wanted to clarify. Thanks.
Thank you. Maybe just to add, okay, Mr. Mkhize, Junior.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chairperson. Maybe just to mention, Chairperson, that at the workshop of the 31st of May, there was a recommendation made by members in the workshop that the two processes of ensuring that these amendments to Schedule 2 be done in parallel with the issues of the formation of the rules. But I think what was misinterpreted by the team was whether the one can supersede the other, because in this case now, the amendment of Schedule 2 is not yet complete. But there is a need to now get into a position where we ask for comments on the consultation paper that, on the rules that have actually been compiled. So my understanding is that we are being guided to probably wait for the amendment to Schedule 2 before proceeding. That is just what I wanted to highlight, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I add my comments, Mr. Pokolo.
Thank you, Chair. I think Ms. Dorcas is misunderstanding me. I'm not confused about what was published and what was not. My point is that until something is a statute, whether by regulations or by schedule, you cannot consult, you cannot assume that the statute is going to say this and start consulting on the basis of that, which is what this paper or this consultation or what we are required to approve is saying. Says let's approve a consultation that's based on something that can or cannot be changed. I don't dispute what was consulted on and what was done and what was not done. That I don't dispute. I'm saying that you can't consult on something that is, you're a creature of statute. Everything that we do must be prescribed in our legislation. If it's not prescribed, we can't do it. That's my point.
Thank you, Mr. Pogolo, for the clarity. I think it's clear. I'm hoping Mr. Akalaka and the team at large understands this. The comment I wanted to raise was the drivers for this thing. That remember when this all started, we were deep in load shedding. I mean, we had level 6s and level 4s and 6s, and everybody at that time, people were saying we should be able to harness every little bit of every kilowatt or megawatt that's out there. And there was clearly this opportunity that you do have people that have installed rooftop solars, and in some cases we may even have those registrants that may have additional power that they could evacuate into the system. However, the challenge was by the very design of the registration process was that the NERSA was prohibited from. NERSA has no mandate over the tariffs of non-licenses broadly. That is, NERSA only has a mandate, a jurisdiction on tariffs. Basically, Section 14 only applies to licensees. Anybody who is a non-licensee, whether is through a process of Section 9, which is registered, or is somebody who is exempted from even registration, that person falls outside of the mandate of the regulator in respect of charges. Now, the question here with net billing has always been, is not so much the grid code compliance, which all of these people, or which everybody has to comply with, whether registered or not registered. Yes, the management of the grid compliance by the sub 100 kVA generators is that rests with the distributors, but there are the NSPs. It's their network, so they need to ensure compliance in respect of the technical aspects of the grid. The challenge is not that. The challenge is the charges, the export rate. How much do they get paid when they export power onto the grid? That's what the issue is.
which is in fact for the licensees is clear. That is regulated by NERSA. In the case, it's either regulated by NERSA or it's an outcome of the public procurement process in respect of the public IPPs. But anybody that falls outside of that, the question is that rate. Who decides that rate? Hence the thing that then says the only way you can give NERSA jurisdiction on the tariffs that are charged by non-licensees can only come via a policy instruction, which once that policy instruction has been received, it can then be converted into the rule. That's what NERSA has a mandate on. Once you've got a policy, a published national policy, then NERSA can write a rule on that. But it must be a published national policy. That's in our section 4. So that's the essence of this issue. Now, two things have since happened. The electricity regulation amendment bill has now been published. And the question is, if it's assented to, generators, if they want to sell power, they will be able to just go through a tender process, if you like. They will bid a particular price into the system. So the regulator would basically not have to be involved in the prices that are actually of the electricity that is exported to the grid, except to supervise that, to ensure that there is no people are not overcharging. So the regulator would actually have to provide oversight and monitoring. That is in the event that the electricity regulation amendment bill is then assented to. But before that is assented to, the question here is to say those tariffs, if the view is one that still says there's an opportunity for this export, what would be the charge? Whether people call it a feed-in tariff or whatever but it's for the non-licensed generators. That tariff that they export, there has to be a guiding principle and an empowering provision for the regulator to actually even get involved in that. I thought I'll just leave it at that. I see Mr. Pokola's hand is up. A follow-up, Mr. Pokola.
Thank you, Mr. Gumede. Mr. Gumede, by and large, I am aligned with the thing that you're saying about not being registered and therefore NERSA not having any mandate over registrants. Where we differ is when we start talking about what is the activity that we require to have a mandate on. The activity that we require to have a mandate on is on the generators, whether registered or unregistered, are going to be selling power, or the one for buying power, we've already done that because we have tariffs. It's the power they are going to sell. And as that activity, we have a mandate over setting the tariff at which they would be selling the power to. The other complications of that, they are not licensed and how do they get into the grid. NRS 048 and the distribution code is very clear on how embedded generators must go into the system, and that can be dealt with differently. Even though they are registered, if they have to get into the grid, they have to meet the requirements of the grid. And NERSA is the custodian of the administration of the grid. So we can deal with them there. But can we leave that for now? Because that's not the point. The point we're at is that there's a charge that has to be put into this, and no other entity in this country or in this industry approves any charges that get into the electricity supply system other than NERSA. So that charge, and the thing about net billing, I see we confuse ourselves about banking, that we don't have a mandate to do banking or approve banking system or credit mechanisms. We don't need to have a mandate for that. Municipalities have their credit systems as we speak, and they are not approved by us. They are their credit systems and they are fine. What they cannot do is have a charge that's approved. The only option and the only part of the act that we have is the one where instead of using it, it is used to ridicule the fact that it's introduced is that anyone who's going to be buying or selling power as a commercial activity must have a trading license. Now, the trading license I'm talking about for your households is never going to be the same as a trading license. For example, the company that I'm a CEO of PowerX, is going to be a watered down trading agreement, but that only gives us the opportunity to use the part of regulating the price at which they are going to sell this power. We are also not going to be able to say that it must be this much, because it has to do with the components of the network, where they are connecting and where they are this. What we are going to approve are the principles that will be used in establishing that charge for each municipality. And that we can do. That we have the right to do. And when we have approved those principles, when they apply to us and say that these are the principles we're using. We're either using avoided cost of distribution, and therefore the charge for those who would be selling power to us will buy their power at this rate, which will be significant or which will be lower than the one that would be the retail price would be, as what net billing generally is. And that's where we are differing. I'm not differing on that they are not registered. And I'm not even expecting us to wait for the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy or Department of Electricity and Energy to come up with amendments of Schedule 2. Whether they do or do not come up with the amendments of Schedule 2, we have a function to set the principles and set the tariffs that would be used by those who are going to be operating or be having a commercial activity, which is a licensed activity by the regulator. That's where we differ. Thank you, Mr. Kumet.
Thank you, Mr. Pokola. I think to the public, I think that's what we need. The issue has been raised in terms of what we need to have a alignment on as the members of the regulator. Because Mr. Pokola is putting a point through, which is a valid point. We then, the rest of us are saying, well, the Section 15 of the Act, or Section 14 and Section 15, which is one of the conditions of the license, and 15.2 in particular, that prohibits anybody, a licensee, from selling power other than at the price that is set or approved by the regulator. It only applies to licensees. And to the extent to which these registrants or non-registrants or non-licensees are not actually covered by that condition of license, that Section 15.2 does not apply to them. That's where we actually maybe need to have alignment. And it is that reason for the members of the public to say, this matter has not reached a total maturity for us to actually make a decision on. Clearly, of course, if it's then if this matter is overtaken by events that ERAP, the Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill, is assented to, this matter falls it falls away. And then secondly, if the schedule is then accordingly changed, also perhaps this matter will also fall will actually fall by the wayside. But in the absence of that happening, we need, as the members of the regulator, to convince each other, such that whatever that we put forward is both legal, practical, and is something that will address what the overall intent of this process was. So hence the original suggestion that we would discuss these issues in general, and then we'll then perhaps then take this matter into a closed meeting and deliberate further in terms of how we then reach a conclusion. But I saw firstly the hand by Madam Asenti and then secondly by Mr. Mkize. But Madam Asenti, firstly, are you covered?
Chairperson, I would like, because we have already taken time on this and the matter is not ripe for decision. And we've already provided guidance here and we seem to be aligned broadly on the principles. So just to save the time of the committee and also just the efficiency of the meeting, I would like to propose that the matter be returned back so that we can find each other on how we are going to proceed with it, given the limitations on jurisdiction, first of all, and also to be in a position to be given an opportunity as the members of this committee to align align on the principles of how we are going to deal with the issue of net billing. So if those are the two things, Chairperson, that we could look into in terms of now getting into the recommendations of taking the matter back, as it is not ready for the decision that is sought. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkhize, were you going to say something similar? I can put the matter in vote.
Even not exactly the same, but something similar. So in the interest of time and efficiency of the meeting, I'm covered. Thank you.
Thank you. So members, can I just put it on the vote and just say, Mr. Mabunda, do you want to intervene?
Chair, I just wanted to propose to say perhaps aligning with Ms. Maseti's view to take this matter to the planned session of the 13th August, whereby it can be ventilated in a closed meeting, in a closed workshop, Chair, if that can be considered. Thank you.
All right, so that would be a subset of the recommendation to linked to the proposal by Madam Maseti. But can I see by show of hands, members, if they support for the proposal that Madam Maseti is raised, and then linked to that is that matter then be discussed on the 13th, assuming that members will be available on the 13th and the morning of the 13th. By show of hands, thank you. I see Mr. Mkhize, Advocate Itole, Ms. Mane, Madam Maseti and Tipokula. Thank you. The decision in this matter is then withdrawn. It will be always been returned to the team for further enhancement, but it will be brought before the committee for a further discussion in the scheduled meeting, or rather in the meeting that is proposed for the morning of the 13th. Thank you. That actually brings us to the close, to the end of the matters that we are going to be discussed in an open meeting. And I would like to thank all the members of the public that may have joined us in all the platforms. And I would like to thank them for sitting through this and for listening. And if there's any further input that they may want to send, we are open in terms of messages, of emails being sent to us to improve the manner in which we run the meeting.